Ron, thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today and joining me and allowing me to have the opportunity to speak with you. Now, I suspect many of you, most of you are probably familiar with Checkpoint and very likely, oh yeah, they're the ones that have the patent on stateful inspection. They own the firewall, right? That's the firewall. Well, it's really a much broader, more comprehensive product line than most people are aware. And being a software company, it really puts us in a unique position. And so I always like to just start off and make sure people are really aware of the breadth and depth. And in fact, this is an offering under an ELA consumption we call Infinity. But I'm going to talk to you today about what I'm sure everybody's seemingly talking about. It's cloud, right? I mean, it's cloud, cloud, cloud. Everybody's talking cloud. And I don't have to tell you the numbers. I put this up not to blow up the balloon on, wow, cloud, it's really growing. In fact, I do it more for some perspective, for all of us to just kind of take a pause, take a deep breath, and put things in perspective. Now, albeit this is 2018 data, but nonetheless compelling, I would suggest that today, or at that time, it was literally less than 5% of the total IT spend. Moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, we vendors, partners, need to do a better job demonstrating to you the facts, the truth on how to really take advantage of this amazing new environment and this constantly changing technology offerings and capabilities. Now, that is, I would suggest, one of the huge challenges, that it's been so fast changing. Raise of hands. How many have this in the backyard? Powers everything 24/7, 365, not a chance. And I had the wonderful pleasure of speaking at a conference, participating in a panel with IDC. And it was outside of Montreal at a place called Tremblant. It was a cloud conference. And one of the things I really liked, the analyst started off and he said, you know, everybody, every enterprise, all of us, we're all going to be moving to the cloud. It's just going to take us 40 or 50 years. And the point is, it really is so obvious when I can just plug in and go, right? I mean, it's really great. And albeit a simple man, and I kind of put it into these terms. For the last decade or two or more, you have been the captain of your own ship. You've charted the course, chosen the harbors to port, where you drop your anchor, the petrol, the weight of your fuel, even what goes in the cupboards, everything you controlled and owned. You're truly the captain of that on-premise data center, your own ship. And things are now changing for the better, but it's a bit different. And I hope you chuckle, but I want you to remember that that previous boat will never have more than the one bedroom, right? And mixing metaphors here, but as you move into public cloud, it's literally a click of the button, and not even a click of a button, but an execution of a setting that says expand, contract. And you can only imagine the wonderful benefits that presents, especially in these times when agility is so critical. But in this new environment, it's very different. It's from an environment that accommodates Fortune 1 million to Fortune 1. And you have to really appreciate the daunting challenge of moving to a world where everything is software defined. where you're controlling virtually everything through APIs. And so I would suggest, you know, especially as fast as this business is moving along, that we all would be well served as we want to race into the cloud, take advantage of the cloud, move into the cloud. We seek out partners, or at the very least, we make sure we're well informed and educated. And this is where I always like to remind everyone, please go to Microsoft Azure, type in CBT, and you'll be amazed how much free or near free training's available. And I'm telling you, it's the nuances, the subtleties that'll get you. Those are really the challenges. Now, there are things that you're just never going to see in your own data center. Certainly, we all, I'm sure, remember back in the days of virtualization when we went from using 8 to 12% to 40, 50, 60% utilization. It was awesome. Thank you, Stanford. But it introduced challenges, and we had this problem of sprawl, right? Let alone visibility with inter-VM communications and vMotion. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you thought it was bad then, let me tell you, it's like Yogi Berra said, deja vu all over again, because now I don't have to get into your data center. I don't have to be at your location. I can get there from anywhere on the planet. And so the potential for sprawl and this hyper-connected environment we're in, man, it is a challenge. And it really screams for why we need really crystal clear visibility as a starting point. Now, the other thing is what we all love, right? I mean, we love this heaving, breathing, expand, contract based on our needs, execution, serverless functions. All this stuff is awesome, but you have to understand the consequences of this ephemeral world and the changes that it imposes on what you've traditionally done and used. And I'll just start off. How many of you right now, if I said, hey, we got to go find a problem, one of the first things we're going to do is what's the IP address? And while that's certainly a valid data point, just think about a function that might use 5 or 6 or 10 in seconds. It's a different world. We need new tools to put context to that data and then make sense out of it. Now, I mentioned this earlier, and this is, again, kind of trying to make this light, but give you some context and understanding from the challenge. In your data center, you call the shots, man. In your own ship, when you're the captain, what's in the cupboards is what's to eat. You've got a different scale. You've got a different challenge. And it's that uniformity, consistency, the enforcement of policy across all of the growing and shrinking, multiple moving assets that you have in your environment. This is where it really, really gets very, very difficult. Now, from a study that we did and we're currently conducting this year's with Cybersecurity Insiders, some 600,000 constituents, they asked, what's your deployment strategy? This was last year. As I mentioned, we're in the process of conducting this year's now. How does this line up with you? We believe far and away multi and hybrid cloud is what will prevail. And the single cloud is less often and less frequent. And so what does this introduce from an operational challenge for you? Well, according to the study, 1 and 2, very close. It's compliance. Why? We all do it like accounting, but we all do it like accounting a little bit differently, right? We have our own way. We have our own rules. And this is what I really want to hone in on in my limited time today. Having the ability to enforce compliance is one thing, but having the ability to customize compliance for your environment, for your industry, for your company, that's where you have to peel the onion a little bit, because the last thing you want to have to do is call a developer every time you want to make a modification or a change to a compliance policy. The other thing that's so critical is, as I mentioned before, it's visibility. If you can't see it, you can't do anything. It is the critical starting point for controlling, putting policy, securing everything. So you have to have great visibility tools. And I'm a simple man again. Here's the analogy I use, right? You're more worried about pH and chlorine on the one on the left. The one on the right, I think it's maybe whether or not something is going to eat you. And certainly visibility is critical. And as implied by that waterfall, it's always changing, always moving. If you need more water in the one on the left, you got to go get the hose. You got to fill it up. But I would say we could agree if I started off and say, these are both places to go swimming. So it is the subtleties, it is the nuances that are going to get you. And what so many are trying to do is haul along this old technology and use it for the cloud. It just doesn't work. Now, I'm very limited on time, and I'm going to do my very best to stay on time. So what I want to just do is switch over and actually give you a demo of how to use our posture management solution to customize a compliance rule within Azure. So here you can see, I just logged on. This is our main dashboard. This is the newer preview that we're working on. For those of you that maybe are familiar with the old one, this is, it's still there, so you can get there if that's something that you want. But you can see we've done a great job, I think, of compiling all of your assets, elevating the issues and concerns. Again, for the sake of time, what I really want to focus on is showing you the interface quickly. But as I mentioned, it's a very comprehensive product. It's a platform that offers quite a deal of capabilities. One of them is logic. It's our threat hunting. It uses the same GSL language that I'm about to show you. So what I want to point out is within the posture management component, and here you can see we've got hundreds and hundreds of predefined bundles for compliance. And these are all bundles of HIPAA, GDPR. You see we're now supporting some foreign languages. I mean, it's very extensive. What I want to do, though, is I want to actually go into here. I'm just showing, we're going to go and actually go in and we'll filter all the Azure compliance bundles here, just in support of Microsoft. We really support all three of the main public cloud providers. So I'm going to go into the GSL builder here. Now, here you see our GSL builder supports all of the three clouds as well as Kubernetes, and you can either do the builder or free text. So that's, if once I get really familiar with it, I could just, type away the text, but that's not me. So I'm going to select Azure, so I only see the Azure assets, and I'm going to go down, and we all know storage needs to be encrypted, right? So I'm going to go into storage and say all storage should have encryption. I've got to find it. Here it is. And that's it. I'm going to close the scope. And now I'm going to test it. I could test it against whatever I wanted. In fact, if I select a particular region, I can then go down into an individual VNet if I wanted. But I'm going to test it against my entire production. And here you go. 49 out of 49, fully compliant. Awesome. Whoop. I just got an email and it said, starting right now, we need to also have an additional ID for all Azure storage. So I go in and say, and an ID that equals AZ. And I'll go ahead and add that. And now I go and run that same compliance rule. And of course, I have 49 failures. But the point is, look at the power that I could just go in and that easily with simple language, simple point and click, customize, and you'll see it had context all on the right. It's really, really powerful stuff. I hope you get a chance to take a look at it. And I really appreciate you, Ron, and everyone giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the things to be concerned about as you move into public cloud. We'd love, of course, to help you. And thanks very, very much. Last kind of comment, I do have a podcast I'd love for you to listen to. I just published my 15th episode yesterday. And with that, Ron, thanks again.
Oh, thank you, Grant. That was very insightful and informative. It's good to see the wealth of solutions. And again, as you reflect on the 3 great lunchtime sponsors we had today, one of the commonalities is this whole notion of automation of the tools they offer to make your cloud experience more secure, more effective. And it's the thing that I'm continually emphasizing in all of our sessions is the importance of minimizing very tedious or redundant or error-prone tasks that you might be doing. Take advantage of all the things that Checkpoint and others are doing to make your life easier, and try and look at your job and what you're doing more strategically. How can I change what I do individually, or how can I change what my organization does to make it more flexible, make it more secure? The value in the future is going to come from not so much, if you go back to some of our original Microsoft session on IoT, it's not trying to figure out a way to format data that you're collecting. It's trying to figure out the right policies and procedures to facilitate the secure and rapid ingestion or collection of data, and then also taking advantage of automated tools to help minimize the amount of detailed work you're trying to do just to figure out what this data is all about. And instead, Microsoft has put so much time and energy in putting in place resources, APIs, capabilities, so then it frees you up to then make more strategic decisions. Again, it's going to help you in your career, you'll make more money, and your organization will be more effective.